Gee, that was fun. It's not taken long for the tournament to give us its first super over. It's happened in match number 2, and Punjab would be scratching their heads. How have they managed to go from a game which eventually needed them to get just one run of 3 balls, then take it to a super over, and then lose that super over quite convincingly? Delhi Capitals are on the board. They've got a couple of points. They have Kagiso Rabada to thank, not for the first time in a super over. He did it against Andre Russell last season. He's done it against KL Rahul and Nicholas Puram this season. There's a lot to talk about with Sanjay Manjrekar and Tom Moody on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. It's kept Sanjay Manjrekar awake, this result, nearly midnight in India, and Tom Moody as well at nearly 2:30 in the morning in Perth. So let's go to Tom first and foremost, because that super over would have just woken you up in case you were dozing towards what looked like a Punjab win in 19 and a half overs. Tom, make sense of that.
Yeah, look, it's so difficult to make sense because both teams really throughout the evening did their best to try to lose the game. But if it wasn't really for Mayank Agarwal and his heroics, we got to recognise that innings of his was quite brilliant, really, to keep Kings 11 in the game after they made a real mess of their early overs. But then the super over, how can you make sense of the super over? I don't understand why Agarwal didn't go out and bat again. Yes, I can understand he might have been a little bit fatigued, but he was the one batsman that had his eye in, and he would have had 10-15 minute break before he had to address that super over. But Kings 11 made a mess of that.
Sanjay, so Tom says it at the top that there were many errors in this game. It seemed like a game of unforced errors, and the team that perhaps made lesser errors ended up winning somehow. Right, Sanjay, I'm going to have to wait till I get your audio back. I'm going to go back to Tom Moody. It's a nice conversation to have. Who decides who goes out in a super over? Mayank Agarwal is the batsman who's hot at the moment, and you tend to have designated batsmen who you'd keep in mind, Tom, I'm sure, if a super over comes up. How do you make that call on the night?
Yeah, look, you do have plans that you would normally go to prior to any match. You've got your players that are better suited to that sort of super over, being able to hit the ball to the boundary really from the get-go, and also bowlers that are the experts of bowling at the death. But in the case of Agarwal and any player that has had the substantial innings they've had, their confidence is high, they've got their eye in, and they're familiar with the conditions. Nicholas Puran hardly faced a ball when he had his first attempt. So it was a high risk strategy to throw him out there again. But it would have been a different story if he'd spent 20 or 30 balls out there in the first innings and he would have had a feel for the conditions.
Could it be the batsman perhaps saying, I'm tired, I can't put in any more? We saw Mayank Agarwal struggle, but it's just 6 more balls. Would you still wanted Mayank to just go out there if you were in that dugout?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I would be very surprised, unless he's injured, or unwell, that he would have said, "Look, I'm no good. Please choose someone else." Because moments like that, that's what players play the game for. They're special moments that you want to grab with both hands and say, "Yes, coach, I'm up for it." Back me in. You don't go sort of hiding in a corner when those big moments come, and I'm sure he wouldn't have hidden a corner.
All right. On the other hand, since we are still discussing super overs, there's no doubt that Kagiso Rabada is the designated bowler. He'd be for most teams, you think, in the world. And how good is Rabada?
Yeah, look, he's shown us last year how valuable he is, and particularly at the end of the innings. He got the majority of his wickets last year at the end of the innings. Interesting enough, he took very few wickets in the power play overs, which really did surprise me, that statistic. But he's got genuine pace, he's world-class, and he knows how to find the block hole. And he's got enough pace to intimidate even the established batsmen. So, if he's not bowling, a block hole delivery, he can follow you with a nasty bouncer like he did to KL Rahul, and that was his demise. So he's just got that X factor, and he's got that little bit of sting in his tail. You know that you need to be on your toes when he's got the ball in his hand.
Right. Sanjay, I think, is back with us. Sanjay, just discussing the point of Mayank Agarwal after that near brilliant innings, but near perfect, that he couldn't take his team over the line, and that call to not send him back in. Tom, very surprised by it, said even if he was carrying a lot of fatigue or tiredness, he should have gone back in. Nicholas Pooran, not a good idea at all. What do you make of it?
Well, see, they went by the track record of Mayank Agarwal, because this is a guy who's played over 70 IPLs and his strike rate is about 120. His average is about 18. So this was one of his best IPL innings by far. So to expect him to go out there and start belting somebody like a Rabada from ball number one would have been maybe again getting him to do something against his nature. So I didn't mind Rahul going there, and Nicholas Pooran has a track record of being this kind of player who can start hitting the big shots straight away. So I didn't mind the opening pair that went in, but every time I watch Rabada, and I've said that many times when I used to do commentary, that his greatness, every time he bowls, you can see the distance between him and the rest. I just want to make a couple of points. This match, to round up for me, was a lot of average performances, but 3 or 4 brilliant individual performances. Stoinis to begin with for Delhi Capitals, then Mayank Agarwal playing something that was completely outside his comfort zone. We saw Shami bowl well, Bishnoi. But you know what people are talking on Twitter? The fans, about that line call of Jordan, who was ruled that he had taken a short run, but the replay showed that he had actually made that run, and that one run cost Kings 11 Punjab the game.
I love it. I have a soft, Sanjay, I have a soft spot for umpires. Players make errors right through the game, and the one error we pick up is the one from the umpire.
No, it's not the umpire's error. It's not the umpire's error. It's all right. Because technology provided a replay, and one saw the replay. So I get a little irritated when decorum takes precedence over common sense. So Nitin Menon made the call. I don't blame him at all. But when on replay, we saw that the batsman had made it. There should have been a quick communication with the umpire on the field to arrive at the right decision. And it was a very, very important moment in the game. And eventually, they couldn't get that one run.
All right. Since we are on it, let's cover that. Tom, you concur with Sanjay? These things, you know what the rules are, and you play by them. And sometimes straight the rules, don't we? We don't have common sense listed in the rules of cricket.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, things like that aren't, I think, thought through until incidents like that happen. And I agree with Sanjay in that, without a doubt, the third umpire should have made a ruling. But what I will say is they need to declare that is part of the rules prior to the start of the tournament. And it clearly isn't part of the rules. Yes, the no ball goes upstairs and the third umpire's in charge of that, your run-outs and your stumpings, but they haven't declared that any other incidences like that, the third umpire can overrule an on-field umpire. So until that happens, we're not going to get full engagement of the technology that's available.
Yeah, I guess it goes down
to exactly the point that I was making, that decorum versus common sense. Because had the third umpire intervened and let Menon know that it wasn't a short run and had maintained that decision, I don't think anybody would have had a problem with it, because it was clear that the right decision was made, and it wasn't completely out of the box kind of a ruling. And this has happened before with low catches. Yes, there is always ambiguity, but this was pretty clear cut.
Yeah, I guess like Tom says, you need to start listing down what is okay. And would that also include a clip on the thigh pad, which is given wide? Everyone's seen it, third umpire seen it. Is he going to go down and start overruling wides as well now? Is there a case to open it up to everything, or are we just
this was a line call. This was a line call, and line calls have been in cricket for a long time, and line call was actually the first and the third umpire came into this sport to make line calls.
And now the front foot no ball has also gone upstairs. So another line call that has gone upstairs. So point well made by both Sanjay and Tom. Let's go back though. We discussed the super over. They're both they all have different views. They didn't mind different batsmen coming out for Punjab. But why did it go to a super over in the first place? So let's get into that last over. And Mayank Agarwal will talk about this glorious innings that he had. But let's talk about why you go for a glory shot when you need one of three. Tom Moody.
Yeah, look, good question. And the luck of having the fielder just in the right place at the right time. I don't think the cover point moved an inch. But that's the crazy game that we love and follow so closely. Look, I think at that time probably there needed to be a discussion between both batsmen. Look, we've nearly got this in the bag here. Let's just see it through. There's no point doing anything out of the ordinary. And I'll also make that point about Jordan's shot. Why would he be looking to clip that in the air when all they need is one? Just hit it. Even if he hit it straight to that fielder at short square leg, they probably still would have completed one. So both the second last and the last ball, to me, defied really common sense. And sometimes under pressure, you don't have that clarity of thought. And that's when you need that time just to step out of the moment and just ask yourself the simple question, what does the team need from me here?
Yep. Marcus Stoinis is right. Sanjay.
Sorry, Ron, again, what are the chances of somebody playing a nice clip shot of his pads and you've got Rabada just about 5 meters away and the ball going straight to him? So some bizarre things happened. And in the end, I think we all had fun.
Yeah, I mean, of all the balls you could bowl when your team needs to defend one of two, Marcus Stoinis chooses the full toss outside off stump and the full toss on the legs, and they both are rewarded. So Marcus Stoinis is night, Sanjay, just that sort of evening where perhaps the player that things just go for him on that night.
Yeah, he was the man who made the difference. Otherwise you were looking at Kings 11 chasing about 100 runs or maybe 120. In the end, 158 was entirely Stoinis' doing. Bowling-wise, he did his best, but I thought, as I said, there were a few just sensational performances along with some very mediocre performances and Stoinis' night. And what's going to happen now is because the first half of the IPL is going to be a lot about seam, and Stoinis continues to bat down the order, it just suits him as well. His batting style is about hard hitting straight down the pitch with the ball coming onto the bat.
All right, we're going to discuss a lot more of this in our detailed review. You can catch that on ESPN Cricket. For a couple of points that I just want to get Tom and Sanjay's thoughts on. R. Ashwin going off after just that 1-over incident where he did look like he's done some damage to his shoulder. He was in a sling towards the end of the game. Bowled a cracking over. If he had to make an impact for Delhi Capitals, that's one way of making it. And we don't know the extent of his injury. But Sanjay, if they are going to miss R. Ashwin for a considerable amount of the season, how big a blow is that from the evidence of that 1-over?
Brilliant. I mean, this was like a dream shift to a new team, and what a start, and Karun once again, showed us why after that 100, he's not in the Indian team anymore. He plays these kind of loose shots, but then that pause delivery, to get Nicholas Pooran out, the pause delivery, I wonder whether people will start talking about it, because I'm sure that must have got Nicholas Pooran slightly disconcerted, but Ashwin does that, but the control is always there. Brilliant start, and it was a shame what happened. But what I saw when he was leaving at the time, when the injury happened, his face looked really he was in agony. You could see on the face. But towards the end of the game, it seemed like he was okay. Yeah. Maybe at the time it looked a lot serious, but later on he was out there. He had his arm in a sling, but he looked okay. So maybe he might be able to come back sooner than later.
If it is dislocation, that's always a challenge. But if you look at the personnel, Akshar Patel had a great night as too, and they've got Amit Mishra in the reserves. You think Delhi are equipped to handle the absence of Ashwin, Tom?
Yeah, look, let's hope it's nothing too serious, and he's only out for a week, possible 2 weeks. And to be honest, it's not a massive loss at this stage of the inning, not the innings of the tournament, because as we've talked, it looks like the first few weeks is going to be seam dominant, and I'm sure they can fill the void for Ashwin whilst he recovers, and I'm sure he'll go off and have scans just to make sure there's no serious damage.
All right, just a couple of comments on the first innings of this game, which tends to be forgotten when you have such a dramatic finish and a super over to accompany it. So let's just have a quick word from Tom and Sanjay on Delhi's top order, the few takeaways from this first game. You know, it's a top order that boasts of a lot of quality, Tom, but some of the shot selection that we've seen seem a bit rash. What can they take away from this one?
Yeah, look, they've got out of jail, haven't they? They've got the winning points, and they haven't played that well. They've been... Yeah, the whole innings was rescued by one cameo from Stoinis, so that's the one bonus out of their top order. A good partnership between Iyer and Pant. That was an important partnership, even though it wasn't as free flowing as we're accustomed to seeing both of those players play. But I think the biggest lesson they'll take away, and I'm sure Ricky Ponting will sit them down either this evening or tomorrow when they do their game review, and just talk about the fact that even though it's T20 cricket, from a batting and a bowling perspective, but more importantly, from a batting perspective, it's still so important to assess the conditions and give yourself a chance to understand how you can play and what you need to do to respect, the conditions that you're being provided.
And as we look at the first innings standout performers, you might tend to overlook it now that Punjab have ended up on the losing side, but it's been quite a debut for Ravi Bishnoi. It's a new age that we live in, and it's a new age of cricket that Ravi Bishnoi is entering into. But Sanjay, you were of high praise for Ravi Bishnoi at halftime. This is a pretty good debut. Something that Punjab can take away is the fact that they have a good leg spinner who showed some promise in the first game of the tournament itself.
Yeah, we've got now different kinds of leg spinners in T20 cricket. You've got the Amit Mishra kind, which is the classical leg spinner. Then you've got somebody like a Rashid Khan. Then you've got the Markandes, and you've got the Rahul Chahar, those kind of leg spinners. I think this boy is in the mold of Rashid Khan. Pretty long run-up, and he just runs through quickly, quick arm action. And I don't think too many batsmen yet know which one is the leg spinner, the top spinner, the one that comes back. So I think the first half of the IPL will be gone in trying to read him. So yes, good one. I think he'll be a highly effective T20 bowler for any franchise, just at least to begin with for a few matches.
Right. Tom Moody, some debut for you today on a full day of work for ESPN Cricinfo. Managed to take it to later than expected with the Super Over, but I hope we've kept your attention good enough. You got about 20 days more of this with us.
Yeah, I look forward to it. And what a debut. Super Over on debut.
You couldn't ask for more.
Let's say that the IPL is alive and well.
Yeah. Thank you very much to Tom Moody, and thank you very much to Sanjay Manjrekar. More from them as this tournament just continues to heat up. Even on day 2, we've had so much drama, so we can't wait for more. There's RCB and Sunrisers coming up, and we'll get plenty more match analysis. Join us for our pre-match live show then, and a lot of coverage even in the aftermath of this game will be on ESPNcricinfo.com. This was Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricinfo T20 Timeout, powered by Dell.